Hello everyone, welcome on back. It's Betting Weekly Game Bet Match, the number one tennis betting podcast and YouTube show brought to you in association with Bet Rivers, your hometown sportsbook. It's been a bit of a break. We've had 10 days off since the US Open final. I'm delighted to say back to look ahead to this week's tournaments, which are two 250 events over in the Far East in China, is our senior ATP Tour handicapper, is Sean Calvert. Sean, long time no speak. I haven't spoken to you since the final of the US Open. How are things?
It feels like I've had about a month off. I haven't. Obviously, but when you do these shows, 2 or 3 shows a week, you kind of get, you get into it, you get used to it, and everything's kind of, you're automatic almost. But I've had about 10 days, almost getting on for 2 weeks off now, is it, or something?
Yeah.
I feel a bit rusty. I'm a bit kind of, a bit dozy. The old brain is going to need a bit woken up, I think. That's where we're at. Yeah, it's been good. We've had a bit of a sort of late summer here, haven't we? Well, you've been away, but it's been nice here the last few weeks. I've been playing a bit of paddle, watching Lagan playing football, just enjoying the sun. Yeah, it's been quite a nice little break, actually.
Lovely. We're going into the Far East towards the end of the season. Now, I know you like this time of the year. Last year we did exceptionally well. I find it quite hard to get motivated. I think it's been a long year. Players get hard. And then after the US Open, they seem to all sort of like have a little bit of a lull and then build up again to the 1,000 events. But these sort of tournaments just sort of come by and it's like they're quite tricky to call.
Opportunities do arise for that very reason because, a lot of the players, like you said, they're a little bit, some of them are a bit jet lagged, some of them are just tired. Some of these players have played a lot. And this year in particular, when they put the Olympics in the middle of everything, that's made it worse. You saw it in the US Open, didn't you? Fatigue, quite a lot of errors. It wasn't the greatest quality US Open that I can remember. And then you've got the Davis Cup as well. Some players went straight from the US Open to the Davis Cup. I think Jack Draper was the one complaining about the way the calendar is. I've been saying this for about 15 years, but no one's listened to me yet. Maybe Jack Draper will be more of an influence. But yeah, and then they've played. Some of these players have played Davis Cup in Britain, in Spain. Some of them have been playing here in China, and they've got to come back over to China for, like you say, a 250 it's in Hangzhou this year, isn't it? It was in Zhuhai. It's a bit of an after the Lord Mayor's show sort of thing, isn't it? But it does present opportunities for us because there are players, and this is how I've done quite well in this swing. You just have to kind of find the players that are motivated. It's not always obvious why they're motivated, but if you can find that angle, it gives you a bit of an edge in this few weeks of the tour.
Yeah, a lot of Chinese players, obviously, as you would expect in the 2 tournaments this week. And I think the home players do have an advantage, especially in this time of the year where the players have had long seasons. And this year more than any other. We got the tournament you said in Hangzhou. It's a new tournament, but it has been replaced by the tournament that we had last year. But obviously, we don't really know much about the conditions here. It's a hard court. Obviously, the weather's going to be pretty smart. What do we expect for the players in Hangzhou?
I don't know. I'd love to be able to tell you, as I normally do, but information is a bit scarce. Chengdu doesn't even have a website. It's got a Facebook page. Hangzhou does have a website. It's all in Chinese. You can glean a couple of little bits from that, but it's not very useful. The facts are, it replaces Zhuhai on the tour. That the license has moved. It's taken over the license of Zhuhai. It just says hard court on the ATP draw sheet, so it's a hard court. I don't know what type. It does look like they're using head balls because they list the partners on their website, and that's all logos. So that part of the website I'm okay with. And that would make sense because Zhuhai used head balls as well. So I suspect they're using head balls here. It's about 200 kilometres from Shanghai. They play at the Olympic Sports Centre, which is quite snazzy, actually. It's quite nice. It's got an 8,000 capacity centre court with a retractable roof. It's all shaped like little lotus flower petals and stuff. It's quite nice. They played the Asian Games here last year, which was won by Zhizhen Zhang. But I think perhaps more relevant is the weather. I think they're going to need that roof in Hangzhou, certainly later in the week. It's extremely hot and humid out there at the minute. Today, we're talking on Tuesday. So Tuesday to Thursday, the real feel is over 40 degrees, which is over about 105, I think, Fahrenheit. Friday dips a couple of degrees, and then there's some rain around. But it's really humid. They've put the real feel on in between 40 and 50 at certain times of the day. So that is incredibly difficult conditions to play in, and that's where the motivation comes in as well, because some of these players aren't going to fancy this, that's for sure.
Yeah, and that's why I think the local players have an edge this week in both tournaments. We can come on to the next tournament in a minute, but Hangzhou is obviously the better tournament if you look at the players in the field. Let's have a look at the draw. Obviously, it's a 250 event, which means the top 4 seeds get buys through to the round of 16, and those players, is it 16? Yeah. No, it's 32, isn't it? They're through to the round of 32. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No,
it's
round
a 32-man draw, yeah. With buys.
Round of 16. And the 4 players through to that round of 16 are the number 1 seed, Holger Rune. He's in the top half of the draw with Nakashima. He's the number 4 seed. Bottom half of the draw, Echeverry and Kachanov. Holger Rune, obviously Danish. I can't imagine him being used to 50 degrees kind of heat for Dane here. But he's
very questionable in the heat, isn't he? He's very questionable. Yeah. Cramps an awful lot, even when it's not as hot as this. So he's an immediate strike through for me.
Well, yeah, he needs to tournament favourite. Come on to the odds in a little bit while. Let's have a look at the other players in that draw. They're in the top half of the draw if it goes to seeds. Rune will be playing Nishiokai, our old favourite, the man who's done us well in these tournaments.
He might get a mention.
Yep. He's going to, might get a mention again. Nakashima, obviously, he's a player who likes to play in the Far East as well. He plays Marijan, and the bottom half is Zhang against Echeverry, Darderi against Kachanov. Really, when looking around the players in the draw, there doesn't seem to be really much depth into this draw, but the one name that's jumped off the page for me is Marian Cilic, who is in the draw, in the top half of the draw, who should, if he wins his match, will play Nishioka if he wins his match in the first round as well. So Marian Cilic making a comeback, the former Australian US Open champion, wasn't he?
Yeah, 2014 in US Open, he won, beat Nishikori in the final that year, which kind of booked all the trends, didn't it?
Let's have a look at the odds. Holger Rune, as we said there, we touched on, probably a fave for us, given the conditions. He's $3, favourite. Kachanov, the number 2, she's $6. Nakashima, plus 650. Nishiokai, our old favourite, 10. Xingzhen Yang, 10. I think these two are going to get mentioned quite a lot throughout the next couple of weeks. Echeverry, 11. Marijan, 14. Darderi, 16. Bellucci, 18. Shevchenko, 22. Hichigata, 22. Karatsev, 25. Bu, 25. Mute, 28. Nardi, 28. And Mikhail Kukushkin at 28-1. As I said, the field isn't that great. Holger Rune is an uneasy favourite at 3-1. There are players who make much better appeal, but who makes appeal to you, Sean, in this draw?
Yeah, it's been a lot of withdrawals, an awful lot from here in Chengdu, so it is a pretty weak draw. If you're looking at some of the names in here, this is a very, very weak 250. I'll just quickly run through some of the players that played in Davis Cup last week. There's not that many, actually. Echeverry played in Manchester, so he's got to come from Manchester to here, so kind of a long journey and not much turnaround for him. Nakashima, you mentioned, has played in Zhuhai, actually. Played on indoor hard, but still, he's played in Zhuhai, so he should be attuned to the conditions. Nishioka, of course, played Davis Cup in Asia for Japan. A couple of easy victories for him. And Maximilian Martra, who plays Nishioka, he also played in Zhuhai, but nobody else played Davis Cup. Nardi played in the Guangzhou Challenger, so he's attuned to conditions. But everybody else is coming basically from the US Open. If you're going to break it down quarter by quarter, the first quarter, Nishioka, unsurprisingly, makes appeal, but not at these odds. I mean, we've backed him a couple of years in a row. He's been about 25-1, hasn't he? 20-25, something like that. 10-1. That's pushing it a little bit, particularly because he's got to play. He'll probably have to play. We don't know about Cilic. He's made a very uneasy sort of comeback. I think he's only 50-50 to beat Zvider in the first match, according to the odds. So I'm not sure. I think it's a bit early in the comeback for Cilic, I think. But Nakashima is a strong candidate. He's in the second quarter. For me, Rune's he's shown so many times that he can't handle his conditions. Sooner or later, the cramp, you would think, is going to take effect. Ultimately, I like Nishioka in Q1, but he's too short. We know about Nishioka. He tends to play well in the first week of the Asian Swing. He won Seoul in 2022. He got to the final of Zhuhai last year. Then he tends to fade away a bit because he's not blessed with most stamina, but he's normally got a very good first week in him. So he's certainly one if you don't mind the short odds. The second quarter, Nakashima looks a pretty decent favourite in there. I could do with the ATP going back to their old style of draw sheets. you've seen how small this is.
Yeah.
You can't
I noticed it this morning.
You can't make out any of the players.
Oh, I've got to put the reading glasses on now. I've got to get the old readers to put
I think
this
I'm
on.
going to have to get a Specsavers. Other opticians are available, but it's so small. I'll put it about here, and I should be able to see it. So Nakashima looks pretty good in Q2. Pretty strong favourite, I would say there. I mean, again, outright, what's it, plus 650? It's probably not for me, really. Q3 is interesting. Xi Zhenjiang, as I said, he won the Asian Games at this venue last year, but really inconsistent. I'm not sure he's the strongest mentally. The amount of times that he lets me down on set one overs by serving at 4-5 and then conceding his serve, just not. I wouldn't trust him to go all the way at 10-1. I think that's pretty short. Karatsev we'll talk about in a minute. Echeverry, as I said, is coming from Manchester, and you would think if this conditions are reasonably quick, like they normally are this time of year in the Asian swing, I wouldn't particularly fancy him either. It just looks a great draw for Karen Khachanov. It really does. It looks like a draw where he should be getting to the final without too much difficulty, really, on paper. And he's motivated for me. He needs results quickly to ensure that he's going to be seeded for next year's Australian Open. I know it sounds a long way away, but it's not that far away. We've only got a couple of months left of this season. He's 26th in the world rankings, the live rankings as they stand at the moment, because he's just lost 250 points from last year's Zhuhai. He can obviously make those back if he wins this tournament, but if he doesn't, he's going to be sort of languishing around about the sort of low 20s, 20, 27, 28, 29. Then he's thinking, well, I need to start playing to get that seeding for the Australian Open. It is quite a motivator for these guys. He's been in poor form, but I think we're going to see a lot better level from him this week. He's had plenty of time to sort out any technical issues that he's had. He certainly won't be too fatigued. He's not played that much tennis. Proven that he can win in these extremely hot and humid conditions. It was very hot and humid last year in Zhuhai. Didn't bother him too much. And his draw looks great. I mean, if the opposition is Zhang and Echeverry, he desperately should be making the final in these from that draw. So not the greatest of prices, but I think he's a good thing to make the final at plus 600.
Just looking at some strange man walking past my house there. Sorry about that. You looking in my house.
Does this happen often?
Stop the podcast and go and find out. Not really, no. But it's walking past with a big dog looking at my window. Anyway, I just wanted just caught my attention now.
Anyway, I'll recap for you. Catching off.
No, I heard that. I'm going to miss out on the bets. I just want to know what that guy was doing. 6-1, Khachanov with Bet Rivers. Obviously, if you are going to play on the outright market or the matches as well, remember it's a very, very early start tomorrow on Wednesday when this tournament starts. It's 2 a.m. Eastern time, very early hours in the morning. So your time is very much limited when this podcast goes live to be able to get on the bet. So obviously qualification's over now. We know the main draw, but the action starts on a strange day as well. It starts on Wednesday. These new strange, stupid rules that they have, which means that the podcasts we do now are all over the place when we try to find the right time. But it's a Wednesday start and it's early in the morning, 2 a.m. So make sure you head across there. And Khachanov is our bet at 6-1 to win the tournament. There is a couple of matches that Sean likes as well. Aslan Karatsev, you mentioned him there. He's up against Bellucci. Karatsev is the underdog here. Quite surprisingly, quite a heavy underdog as well. He's plus 130. Bellucci is a overwhelming favourite at minus 162. Spread is 1.5. Karatsev receiving 1.5, minus 110. Bellucci minus 1.5, minus 125. And the total here is 22.5 with over the favourite at minus 124. They've never met before. The form of these players is pretty much not in great form, either of them, I suppose. Karatsev failed to make the main draw at the US Open, and Bellucci got beat by O'Connell in the US Open, came through qualifying in round 2, and he beat Wawrinka on the way there. He also did well in the Challenger in, where was it? It was, where's the Challenger? Carey. He got to the final where he got beat by Safalin. So Bellucci is in form, but a little bit of break, a little bit of rest up. Karatsev comes here fresh, plus 130. What do you like here?
I'm going to take a chance on Karatsev. I mean, these conditions suit him for a start off. He played really, really well this time last year. Made the semi-finals in Zhuhai when, as I said, it was hot and humid. Also made the final in Tokyo. I think he lost to Ben Shelton there off the top of my head. So two very, very strong performances. And then he got injured. He was getting some momentum for the start of this year. And he got injured right at the start of the year in Brisbane. It was a bad knee injury. And it's taken him quite a long time to be able to even get back playing. He's played quite a few matches. Well, he's played about 8 or 9 matches now. So and then he's had obviously a rest since the US Open to work on some stuff. So I feel like it's worth taking a chance that he is fit now. He certainly looked like he was the previous games that he played. The results haven't gone his way, but that's a bit of rust. You would expect that. These odds are all about the fact that Bellucci's been playing really well lately. He's won a lot of matches, but he has played so much tennis. He's played 21 matches since Wimbledon, which is crazy schedule. Karatsev's played 9 in the same time frame. So you feel like there's a dip coming from Bellucci. That is an insane schedule of matches to play. I know he's had to play a lot of qualifiers, but he's also chosen to play a lot of challenges. He's getting his ranking up. I understand that, but played an awful lot of tennis. If we look at the last 12 months main level stats and outdoor hard, they both got exactly the same win rate, 57% win rate. Service points won and return points won totals favours Karatsev 103 to 101. So on the pure stats, you'd be looking at Karatsev being, favourite for this rather than underdog. Also, if you look at what Bellucci's done, I know he's been in great form lately, but these odds, there's a bit of recency bias about it. He's only 5-8 win-loss versus top 100 ranked opponents this year. So he's got a losing record against them. Obviously, Karatsev is a top 100 player. He's 115 in the world now on the pure rankings, but at his best, he's top 20, top 30 easily, certainly comfortably top 100. There's no discernible issue that I can see regarding Karatsev playing left-handers. He's 8-8 win-loss against left-handers at main level in his career. Bellucci, obviously, a lefty, so nothing to worry me there. So Karatsev, it's a risk, obviously, because he's not been fully back to form since that injury, but I don't mind taking plus money in conditions that he plays very well in.
Yeah, plus 130 for Karatsev. Always following the move on Karatsev matches. Very much
he is questionable.
A player.
Yeah, that's for sure.
The money move is always a bit of a sign. So if people are taking the plus 130 and it goes in our favour, then that's a very positive. If it drifts against us, be wary of the drift of Karatsev. The next match sees a local player. That's I'm going to ask Sean to pronounce. Yunchaokete. Is that correct? I don't even know anything about this guy. What's his name?
I think it's Yunchaokete. Yeah.
Yunchaokete. Okay,
You're pretty
Yunchaokete.
close, to be fair.
I sound like a northerner, like a scouser.
Probably copying me.
That young Shaketi young laddies.
You could try it in a Manchester accent. It's not easy.
He's playing Hugo Gaston. Yunchaokete is the man who beat Karatsev in the qualification at the US Open. Hugo Gaston shocked everyone by making the final in Kitzbühel, but he hasn't won a match since then. Yunchaokete is minus 225. Hugo Gaston is plus 175 spread, 2.5. Yunchaokete is favourite here at minus 150, very strong favourite. The total is 22.5 with under a very strong favourite at minus 137. I mean, I don't really know much about Yunchaokete, but you're going to tell me all about him, hopefully. He has been playing Davis Cup action. He did get beat by Casper Ruud in the first round at the US Open. He's got home advantage here, obviously. He's going to be like the conditions. But Hugo Gaston is a player that is in dreadful form, not in the greatest form, but he's a higher ranked opponent, a much higher ranked opponent, and yet he's a very disrespectful plus 175. What are your thoughts on this one?
I think this is a crazy price on Boo, to be honest. Plus 175 about Gaston to beat him. I mean, I don't get it. I had to go into this and check that the odds weren't wrong. Because, you'd probably make him slight favourite, but minus 225. He's been in great form lately at Challenger level. In the summer, he's had a great summer at Challenger level. He's more familiar with these conditions, obviously. Gaston, by the way, has never played a match in Asia at all that I can find on his record at any level. So I guess that's certainly could say that Boo is more familiar with the conditions. But Gaston's beat him once this year already. He beat him on a decent paced hard court at the Australian Open. Again, hot conditions, a quickish hard court. And that day Gaston was 1.55, minus 182 favourite for that match. 7-8 months ago. And now he's a plus 175 underdog. It doesn't really make much sense. I know he's not in great form, but since when does that really matter with Gaston? As you say, he just popped up and made the Kitzbühel final. He's done nothing since, but he's more than capable of beating this guy and beating him well like he did last time. Tight first set. I watched a bit of that match. Tight first set. Ran away with the second set in Australia. So Boo's won the Granby Challenger, and he also made the final of the Chicago Challenger this summer. But he's only played 3 main-level matches in his career, one of which he won by retirement against Kekmanovic, and he lost the other 2 to Seb Korda and Ruud. So no record to speak of at all at main level. And recent form's not that great either, is he? He lost to the world number 292 in Davis Cup last week, Romanian player. He also lost to Mark Polmans, who's ranked 203, as a minus $5 favourite, by the way, the week before in Shanghai. So not for me, these prices. If you're talking about play styles, it reminds me a lot of Xi Zhenjiang, particularly with the hair as well. He's got that sort of same haircut as Xi Zhenjiang. Plays a very similar style for me to Zhang. And he is obviously a talent. He's won those challenges, but this is a terrible price. Unless someone knows something about Gaston that I don't. It is all very much dependent on the attitude of Hugo Gaston. If he's treating this as a bit of a jaunt, I've not been to the Asian swing before. I'll see what it's like. Not really that bothered. If he treats it like that, then maybe you could see Boo being a reasonable favourite. But if he doesn't, then plus 175, that just seems very big to me. I'm not going to mess about with the handicaps, because if Gaston's not on it, he could easily drop a set 6-love, 6-1 if he can't be bothered. But he should fancy this. He's already beaten this guy once and beaten him comfortably. It dished out a bagel to him this year. So if Gaston approaches this the right way, which is always questionable, plus 175, I'm happy to take that.
Yeah, I think what it is everyone's a little bit worried of the local players here with the conditions. They're always
going to be nervous though as well.
We saw the prices on the outright market. Zhang and Nishioka are both priced up at 10-1 when we were getting 25s. I think the odds makers are looking at these local players, think they've got all the incentive. Hugo Gaston, French player, at the end of his end of the year. What's he? That's in it, but it's still not. It's still factored into the price, but the price is still big. I mean, I thought it'd probably be about plus 130, 125. The 175 does appear to be generous, but we are betting that he's up for it, and it's built into that price that the motivation is there. But plus 175 is a tempting price.
Everyone's
for a man
got a price, haven't they?
Yeah, he's almost 50 places higher in the world rankings than Yunchaokete Boo. Beating him already this year, 7-5, 6-love, and there has been a little bit of money coming for him in the build-up to this match. He was actually bigger than this earlier in the day. He was plus 185, and Yunchaokete Boo was down to around about minus 250, I think he was.
I think you're
250. So
pretty sure you'll get a bigger price in play than that, unless Gaston just tanks it, which is possible, of course. But I'm happy to play at that price. Everyone's got their price. That's good enough for me.
So 2 outsiders we are going for tomorrow with the BetRivers website. Again, make sure you head across there early, 2 a.m. start. So when you hear this podcast, make sure you get across early and place those wagers, because you haven't got much time to place the wagers. Now let's move on to another tournament in China. It's another 250 event. It's in Chengdu. We do know a little bit about this tournament. It's been around for a few years now. Zverev won it last year. Karina Buster won it in 2019, Tomic in 2018, Istomin in 2017, and Kachanov, the man that we want to win the tournament in Hangzhou. He won this tournament, so he has won tournaments over in China. And looking at this tournament again, it looks a lot weaker. I mean, we talk about the other one, the quality of Hangzhou. Well, Chengdu doesn't have hardly any quality in it as well. As you can see, the favourite is Lorenzo Musetti, the number 1 seed. But we do know a little bit about this courts. We know about the speed here. It hasn't played, last year was the first time since 2019 it was played, but we have something to go on here with some form guide, and we know it's going to be hot again. What's to expect from the players in Chengdu this week? Yeah,
it was pretty quick pre-COVID, and it obviously had that break for several years, and then it returned to the tour after a 3-year hiatus in 2023. It was originally listed as a deco turf. Now it just says hard, which is not really that helpful. There's no website for this, as I said. It's just a Facebook page. Good luck if you want to try and get tickets. And I'm sure you could just turn up on the day and get them, no problem. But there's 500 meters of altitude here, and they usually use Strixon balls, which, to my knowledge, no other tournament uses. And all of that, the altitude and the balls and the surface, has combined to make it pretty quick. It wasn't quite as quick in 2023, but it's still decent pace. Average 79% holds of serve, and 72.8% first serve points won last time it was played last year, and 44% of the matches featured a tiebreak. In fact, 44% of the matches went over 10.5 games in set one last year, although the average over all 5 editions is only 31%. So I think that was probably a high watermark last year of set one overs. But it's always been a very, very good tournament for underdogs. Average is 43%, which is very, very big in the 5 editions that it's been on the tour so far. In terms of the weather, not quite as hot as Hangzhou, but very, very close. It's going to be between sort of 33 and 35 degrees Celsius Monday to Friday, which if you add in the real feel, that puts it up to close to 40 again with the humidity. So it's only for the brave, this. The people that want it, the players that are motivated. Do you want the trends?
Yes, of course.
Okay,
yeah.
So of the 10 finalists that there have been in Chengdu, only 2 of them have been shorter than 16 to 1 in price. 4 of the 5 winners have been priced between 16 to 1 and 66 to 1. And the players that you mentioned there a few minutes ago, they're generally players that like quick conditions. So the players that big serve, big forehand, Safran, I think, made the final here last year. The players that have an attacking game, big serve, attacking game, they tend to go well here.
Let's have a look at the draw. Number 1 seed is Lorenzo Massetti, as I said. And unlike in Hangzhou, the top 4 seeds receive buys through to the round 16. And that's Lorenzo Massetti, number 1 seed. Nicolas Jarry, number 3 seed. That's in the top half and the bottom half. Pedro Martinez, number 4 seed. And Aleksandar Bublik. So the bottom half would appear to be slightly more weaker than the top half. If we look at the seeds, it's Massetti, Mannarino. I mean, Mannarino's still being seedy for these tours. Number 5 has had a dreadful year. Nicolas Jarry, Lorenzo Sonego, obviously a winner recently in Winston-Salem. And Petchi Perregard in the bottom half of the draw. Martinez, Safalin and Aleksandar Bublik is the draw. Notable players in and around the draw, well, not really many. Junxing Zhang, Nishikori, the Japanese player, the finalist against Coric at the US Open. He's in the bottom half of the draw, but not really much quality at all, really, in and around the players, the seeded players. Let's look at the odds. Lorenzo Massetti is the favourite at plus 450. Zhang is plus 550. Then we have Safalin at plus 350. I don't know if that's a typo. It must be plus 550 or 650. Aleksandar Bublik is 7. Lorenzo Sonego is 8. And Petchi Perregard is 12. Borna Coric 14. Nicolas Jarry 14. Alexander Muller 16. Adrian Mannarino 18. Oh, I can't remember the last time he won a match. Vukic 18.
I think he won one at the US Open, beat Coric.
Oh, well, there you go.
That was it.
Corey 20, Yannick Hanferman 20, Kovacic 25, Christopher O'Connell 25, and Lucas Klein at 28 to 1. What do you like here?
I was just taking a sip of tea then. So I've got the women's on the TV there. They go to some good places, the women's tour. They're playing in Thailand and Seoul this week.
Yeah.
We don't get that. I'd be up for the ATP. They used to play the ATP in Thailand a few years ago and they stopped it. I'd be up for that, but sadly, it isn't on the tour. Anyway, we're not in there. We're in Chengdu. So the players, just very briefly, that played Davis Cup. Pedro Martinez is obviously one that you would think would feel it. He played on Sunday, so a couple of days ago, in Valencia. So he's got a very quick turnaround. Yannick Hanfmann, who I'm going to talk about in a minute, played in Zhuhai, as did Lucas Klein. As far as I know, none of the others played Davis Cup. So if we're just looking at the quarter, Q1, I think Massetti's got a pretty good draw there, hasn't he? Although Kotov, I mean, O'Connell's just won a challenger. So the winner of Kotov against O'Connell, it's not the easiest first round for Lorenzo Massetti. You wouldn't have thought Mannarino's up to it anymore. Certainly not in these sort of conditions at his age. Not the pace of the courts, but which I think will suit him. But you know, the heat and humidity, I'm not sure he can handle it. Nicolas Jarry's had a vestibular issue recently. He was in the party for the Davis Cup, but he didn't play at all. The captain, I think the captain's Nicolas Massu now. He chose Christian Garin ahead of Jarry. You wouldn't have thought that was likely if all things were equal. And he's had some sort of vestibular problem. This is something that Natasha has actually. It's like an inner ear infection which affects your balance and give you like migraines and stuff, and he's had that for a while. So the fact that he didn't play at all in Davis Cup suggests that all is not well still with Nicolas Jarry on that score. So the top half, if Lorenzo Sonego's up for it, you would think he's got a decent chance, but I'll talk about him again in a minute. He's not the most consistent of sorts. That Q2, it certainly looks pretty open. Sonego's got a good chance. I just can't see Jarry doing it with that vestibular issue. But the one I like is in Q3, which, do you want me to talk about that now?
Yeah.
Okay. So, as I said, Martinez is coming from Davis Cup in Valencia, more or less an out-and-out clay courter anyway, Martinez. You wouldn't have thought these conditions would suit him, even if he does have time to acclimatise, which he doesn't. But the guy I like, Yannick Hanfmann, he's 20-1. He's been in Zhuhai already, obviously, for the Davis Cup. He should be nicely attuned, not only to the conditions. I know that was indoor hard, and now he's playing outdoor hard, but he's been there. He's attuned to the time zone. He's attuned to the heat. You would have think he's been training for the last sort of week or so out in the heat after the Davis Cup. So, all things considered, he should be the one best attuned to these conditions. Should be in great spirits as well, because he beat Alejandro Tabilo in Davis Cup and Kovalik as well to help Germany qualify. So 2 good wins for him there. So he should be in good spirits. He's the kind of player that does go well here. Big serve, big forehand, tough to break in these conditions. But mainly, this is also about the draw. And Petchy Pericard is struggling since he kind of broke through and won. I think it was Leon he won, wasn't it? The tournament on clay. It was a bit of a surprise given his game style. Then he played well on the grass, but since then, nothing really has come from him. He's obviously got a chance as well, but 12-1 on everything I've seen from him in recent weeks doesn't look great. I would prefer Hanfmann in that at 20-1. And Q4 looks extremely competitive, really competitive. You've got Saflin, who made the final here as a 30-1 shot last year. Now he's, 5.5-1, 6-1, something like that. Mm-hmm. It shows you the quality of this tournament this year compared to last year. Zverev was in it last year. Then you've got Jun Chen Shang against Nishikori, which would be a great match. These two know each other very, very well. Training partners at Bredenton, at the academy out there. Shang is a player that I've talked about before. We backed him to win at Winston-Salem when he won a couple of matches and then promptly withdrew. Not somebody, I know he's Asian, but he's not somebody, and he's played a lot in Asia, but he's not somebody you would trust in hot and humid conditions. He has an awful lot of illness and cramps and injury issues. I wouldn't be so sure. Yes, he's probably motivated, but does that body of his have what it takes to win in these conditions, a 250 in these conditions? Not so sure. And then obviously you've got Bublik, who's the real wild card. He's gone well here before. He's either former champion or finalist here, I think, Bublik, isn't he? He's definitely made the final.
Finalist, made the final.
So, but is he going to fancy it in these extremely brutal conditions? I'm not so sure. He's not really been at the races for quite a few months now.
Can't imagine him being used to the time difference as well. He's got to get up early. I don't think he's going to have much of a sleep there. So it's a different time difference for him. I think that will cause him all kinds of problems.
It could do, yeah. He's not a big fan of the mornings, is he? It depends how long he's been out here for. I mean, he could have come out after the US Open, I suppose, but who knows with Bublik? I mean, that's the bottom line is who does know with Bublik, and what is he, 6-1, 7-1?
He's
$8
$8.
Yeah, nah, he could come and win this tournament quite easily, given his ability. But he could also tank it in his first match. So who knows with him? But it's a bit of a shot in the dark with Hanfmann. Really, I mean the clues are there at 20-1. I feel like he's perhaps the best of the each way options. I wouldn't be trusting any of these short price favourites here this week.
Got some good news for you, Sean.
What's that?
He's 22-1 now with BetRivers.
Okay.
BetRivers have Hanfmann at 22-1 to win his tournament.
All the better.
So a little bit better price for you for the German, who has been in good form. The matches start at 1 a.m. tomorrow, so another very, very early start when this podcast drops. You'll only have a short time to get across to the app, get across to the BetRivers website to make sure you get your bets down. So make sure you head across there whenever you get the opportunity to get the bets down. Check out the specials as well. There'll be lots of specials on the tennis throughout the week here and throughout the weeks coming up as well. If we've helped you get a winner Did you fade us? Did you decide us fade? Whatever you've done, just share your Bet Rivers bet slips with us. Just tag us up because we win and show us your winning bet slips. We want to hear what you've done. We want to know if you've bet some of our advice. We want to know if you've faded some of our advice and it's been profitable. Tag us at because we win. And while you're tagging us, you might as well follow us at because we win on all socials as well. Download the podcast, Betting Weekly Game Bet Match on your preferred podcast provider, and also subscribe to the YouTube channel. When we say subscribe, we think that it's like you got to pay for it. You don't have to pay for it. It's free. Click that subscribe button and all the content, you'll be alerted every time any tennis, any soccer, or our live shows drop. Live shows every day now, Monday to Friday at 11 o'clock Eastern time. Early start. There are a couple of matches that you want to discuss as well before we wrap up. The first match is Lorenzo Sonego up against Taro Daniel. Sonego here is minus 265. I said earlier that he won the tournament in Winston-Salem. They're very impressive there. The draw opened up for him and a little bit of luck along the way. He's up against Taro Daniel, who's obviously another player who likes these conditions. They've met twice before, and it's one win. So one of them was a completed match in Tokyo in the Olympics in 2021, which Sonego come through a long one. And they played at the Challenger in 2016, which Daniel won because it was a walkover. So only really one match to be on their records, which was the Olympics in Tokyo, which Sonego won. If you look at the records of the players, Daniel's in shocking form at the moment. He hasn't won since Montreal, and he hasn't won a first round match in a tournament since before Wimbledon. So he's in really, really bad form. Sonego is in good form. Obviously, that win in Winston-Salem, and then he went to the US Open and he drew Tommy Paul, very unfortunate. But he did play well in that match. He went down in 4 sets. Here's the favourite here. 3.5 is the spread. 22.5 is the total. Sonego should win this, but Taro Daniel in these conditions might be a bit of a threat.
Yeah, I think not just in these conditions, but this part of the swing, this swing of the tour. You know, if this was being played somewhere else, then in Europe or somewhere, then you probably fancy Sonego. But I'm just not sure about the price here. Minus 265 on Sonego, given how inconsistent he is. He, as you said, he played pretty well, very well, in fact, in Winston-Salem. But the week before that, he lost to Xiaomi Munar on a hard court in qualifying, and that's Lorenzo Sonego. He can be very, very good. He can also be very poor. So it's not a price that I'd want to be taking on. He's only 2-4 win-loss in the last 10 years on the Asian swing, Sonego. He's never won a match outside of the Shanghai Masters. He's only played 2. He's only played 2 matches outside of Shanghai in this swing of the tour, and he's 0-2. Hasn't won either of them. This could be just the case where Daniel might be the more motivated. They met in Tokyo. Obviously, Daniel's Japanese player. This was in the Olympics. And Daniel served for a straight sets win that day. Then he had a match point in the ensuing tiebreak, having failed to serve it out. And ultimately ended up losing it in a final set tiebreak. It was a match that he should have won. Should have won it in straight sets, actually. Ended up losing it, which is kind of par for the course for Daniel. He's a very streaky player. One of the most streaky players on tour. Goes on lots of long losing runs, and then he pops up and wins a tournament. Like he did at the start of this year when he won Auckland on a reasonably quickish hard court. He was about 200-1, if I remember rightly, to win that tournament. Made the final, lost to Tabilo. Right now he's on a poor run, as you said, but it would be absolutely no surprise if he found his form back on the Asian swing. So it's just a lean for me because I'm not sure I can trust Taro Daniel. He's extremely streaky. I would go with either over 2.5 sets here, plus 145 for Bet Rivers, or the over 11.5 player games for Daniel at 1.87 minus 115. It just feels like Daniel will probably get closer, quite a bit closer than the odds suggest here.
Yep, that's a very interesting one match there. Head across to the Bet Rivers website for that match. Again, it's an early start around about 2 o'clock Eastern time. The next match is one that I quite like, and it's one I looked at before. I didn't know the bets you were going to suggest this week on this show, but I looked at this price here and I couldn't understand the price of it. Borna Coric is minus 162 against Aleksandar Vukic, who's plus 130. Spread is 2.5, total 22.5, as you would expect on the total. But when you look at the head-to-head between these two, Vukic won their only previous meeting in 2023 on a hard court in Toronto, 6-2, 6-3, so very one-sided. Both of them this year have had pretty poor years. Vukic is 8-15 on a hard court, and Coric is 7-10. Coric, last match was that embarrassment of losing to Manarino. I think in straight sets, he would say, but I think I'll probably give Manarino a match at the moment. I know Vukic isn't playing very well. He got beat by Purcell in the US Open, but these two players come in with pretty much identical recent records. And on the rankings as well, Vukic is actually 5 spots higher than Coric at 92 and Coric at 97. So there's not really much in it, but yeah, you get massive price at plus 130 here for the Aussie. I think that's a big price.
Yeah, it's certainly short on Borna Coric, that's for sure. For me, this one's mainly about the matchup. Coric has long held a weakness against big servers. He's never enjoyed playing big servers in his career, or rarely. His form isn't great either, and he's also not particularly good in the heat. Coric, I've seen him cramping numerous times in hot and humid conditions. He did it again in, I think it was Washington, D.C., if memory serves me rightly. Anyway, Coric against the big servers that I've got listed in my database, he's 8-15 win-loss in his career, Coric against those players. So certainly a weakness there. You know, Vukic is that type of player. Big serve, big forehand, slightly suspect backhand, but you know, that's the type of player that Coric has struggled with over the years. And as you said, Vukic beat him easily when they met in Toronto. And I would suggest that it's quicker here in Chengdu than it is in Toronto, which, you know, would favour Vukic. As I said, Coric is also questionable in very hot and humid conditions, while Vukic has made the final in Atlanta, where it's extremely hot and humid. Obviously played a lot in Australia as well. I would certainly fancy him more in these sort of conditions to handle it than Coric, and he should be suited by the quick courts. As I say, he fits the bill as the kind of guy that big serve, big forehand that's gone well in Chengdu in the past. What's putting me off here is Vukic's record on outdoor hard is not been great lately. You know, his stats are not at all good, which is off-putting, which is why I've downgraded this just to a lean. But last 12 months in outdoor hard at main level, he's only won 26% of his matches, Vukic. 5-14 win-loss. And a service points won and return points won total of 96. That's probably why this is priced as it is, because Coric is on 99. He hasn't got a particularly great record. He's only won 36%. So I'm a little bit put off by the stats, but as far as the matchup is concerned, and in these conditions where it's quick and very, very hot and humid, I wouldn't be anywhere near that minus 162 about Borna Coric. I would take a chance on Vukic.
Yeah, Vukic for me at plus 130 is a little bit of value. And that has been the show. That's been the value on the two tournaments, the 250 events this week in China. Before we wrap up, Sean, give us your official picks, please. Okay,
so outright in Hangzhou, we're taking Kashanov, 6-1, I think he is.
Yep.
Thereabouts. And match bets, Karatsev, taking him at plus 130 against Bellucci. And taking a chance on Gaston, my old friend Hugo Gaston, plus 175 to beat Boo.
Yeah. On the show so far this year, minus 10 units on the ATP ATP Tour show, around about plus 10 units on the WTA show. So more or less dead level across the two tennis events. If you want to stay across all our content, obviously download the podcast Betting Weekly Game Bet Match, and also subscribe to the YouTube channel Betting Weekly Studios. Huge amount of subscribers coming each week. Thank you very much. Keep comments, keep your likes, if there's any questions, we're happy to answer them. And another way to follow us, we were just starting a newsletter. And we're starting a Betting Weekly newsletter. And you could be one of the first followers to sign up for it. You have to go to our exclusively new website, bettingweeklystudios.com, and sign up. It's free. So make sure you sign up to get across all the content on our daily newsletter with the best picks from all the guys as well. Lots of stuff coming your way. Remember, it's the Champions League this week, starting today, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, the new look Champions League, and every day at 11 o'clock Eastern time, one of our handicappers, our soccer handicappers, will be on giving you the best bets and the market movers from Bet Rivers HQ ahead of the Champions League this week. That's it for the day. Sean, thank you very much. I think we'll probably be back on Thursday. Yeah, Thursday.
Thursday, yeah. Yes.
I'm trying to work out. I was going to go Thursday.
Probably Thursday, I would suggest. Yeah, probably.
Yeah, we'll come back. But it's a strange time of year, and the clocks and the time differences make it a little bit confusing for me. I can just about handle a couple of hours in European or 5 hours from New York, but when we get over this part of the world, I'm lost. So we'll see what happens. We're looking around, most likely to be back on Thursday. Hopefully when we come back, we'll cash some of these tickets on the first round matches. Head across to Bet Rivers, a whole host of markets on all these matches, and not only the ones we have discussed there, but all the matches as well. Probably the best array of tennis betting markets you will find stateside. Enjoy the rest of your day, Sean. Take care, and everybody, and good luck with your bets. Gamble responsibly, and we'll take care and we'll speak to you again on Thursday.